What's up, chat? Welcome back. It's Monday. We're about to indulge in a little bit of mayhem, and it's a really exciting Monday because we have results from events using the new format, and not just the new points and stuff. Some of these events are even using Chapter Approved 2025, which is awesome. So we're going to do what we always do when we get a new format update, and that is narrow our focus down a little bit and look at small table 40K, smaller events, 3-rounders, RTTs, smaller GTs, and stuff like that, and take a peek at some 3-0 lists using the new stuff. We have a bunch of interesting stuff to talk about here. Ryan G, thank you for the super chat. Hopefully it comes up. I don't know where my alert box is. Hello? I've had lots of problems, technical problems today, or I guess between yesterday and today, by the way. Well, my stream yesterday I had to restart, we had a weird crash and a bunch of stuff disconnected. And just now I had to, reboot a bunch of stuff on my controller, so I don't know what is happening. It seems like that just sort of went into the ether. Ryan G, I apologize for that. Can we pierce the proverbial jelly donut that is AdMac? 57% win rate for this weekend means they ain't no custard filling. Yeah, AdMac looking pretty good. For sure. I do have a couple of AdMac results to talk about. New Thousand Suns. That's an exciting one. We have some undefeated lists for New Thousand Suns. Looks like Grand Coven is what a lot of people are playing right now, which makes sense. That's the evolution of the index detachment. But obviously there's some Warp Meld Pact that probably is kind of the shark in the proverbial waters of Adeptus or of Thousand Suns right now. Yeah, I don't know what happened with the super chat there, chat. It should have gone, and it's not. Let me see if I can fix it real quick. This is really obnoxious. I'm having a bad weekend for technical stuff, apparently. Let me just... Oh, God. So this might turn into a whole thing. I wish I knew why these things just disconnected, because they do like to do that sometimes. They're just like, hey, I've decided that I'm not going to work anymore and we're not integrated. But I haven't changed anything. I haven't touched a thing. They worked literally the other day. Okay. Is it actually broken? Oh, there it goes. Well, should be working.
Kevin donated $30 through Super Chat. This is a test Super Chat message.
I don't know, chat. I clicked some buttons. Maybe that works now. Technology is the way of the future, yeah, for sure. Yeah, so Adeptus Mechanicus is looking a little spicy, but here's what I want to break down first, chat. Subterranean Assault might be too good. I think we finally did it. We made Tyranids good in 10th edition, and the answer was to give them almost infinite maneuverability. I was playing some meme lists for a while, and I was like, yeah, this seems totally whatever. And then I sort of buckled down and I designed myself a real list, and I was like, oh, this feels very strong. I think if the opponent isn't teched for it and doesn't play perfectly, a lot of armies just get rolled over. It might be too good. Oh, there you go. Now it's working. It just didn't work for you, Ryan. I apologize. Ripman, thank you for the channel membership. Appreciate that, bud. The other thing is that Blood Angels, holy shit. I mean, we saw this coming a mile away. No one is surprised by this, but a ton of these results are going to be Blood Angels. And there were a couple events that I have a list of events I want to talk about here. There were a couple of events that I just didn't pick because it was the top 3 were undefeated Blood Angels all the way down. I was like, oh boy, this is gonna be a little spicy because they not only benefit from some of the core faction points cost reductions, people are switching from Ultramarines to Blood Angels, although there's definitely still Ultramarine Gladius Task Force out there. That has basically not gone anywhere. But also, it's the Blood Angel stuff specifically just got wildly discounted. Kind of out of the blue. I don't know if anybody was really expecting that. So, is that a subscription from Frontline Gaming? Why, hello. Welcome to the channel, Frontline Gaming. Yeah, the changes were weird. I don't disagree. Like, changing things like Vanguard Veterans and stuff certainly buff Blood Angels kind of passively. But, yeah, I don't know why we needed, like 100 points off everything else, too. That was a little much. It's not like Blood Angels were horrible, previously. They were just kind of mediocre, right? Yeah, these changes are absolutely wild. So anyway, hey, Frontline in the chat. What's up? Nice to see you. I'm excited to hang out with you guys this weekend at Atlantic City Open, where I'm going to be streaming the team event. So please come hang out. I don't have a YouTube streaming event for it up quite yet. Gifted memberships from Frontline Gaming. Hell yeah. Chris Busby, JMTH, Cat Queen, or Cat Keen. Not Queen. There's no U. Bulls of Steel. Revenant. Congratulations again, those gifted memberships. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Yeah, so I don't have a stream event up for this weekend yet, but I'm going to be streaming all 3 days of the 8-man team event over at Atlantic City Open. Frontline Gaming was very kind enough to invite me over because they didn't have a streamer for that, and I am excited to go because my other event this weekend ended up canceling. So I think it's going to be good. I'm psyched. I'm psyched. Is Ultramarine meta going to switch to bringing Gilliman or Marnius, or still both? I think you still run both, to be honest. Like, the funny thing about the two characters are that, and the reason that, like, the Ultramarines, like, exploded as soon as Space Marines got buffed, basically at all, Ultramarines, like, blew out, just absolutely exploded out of the metagame, because the two characters have so much synergy together, where you can't just throw Gilliman out in front, right? You want Gilliman to anchor for you. You want your opponent to have to overcommit into your army. Then Gilliman can kill whatever's going to kill him. Then he just wanders around the table and does whatever he wants for the rest of the game. Because if you lose him really early, it's really bad, because you lose all his support abilities and everything. Calgar is that piece. He's fast, he hits like a truck, and he's so stupidly hard to kill that he like, your opponent will always trade down into him, and then Gilliman can kill whatever killed him, and then you're usually good. You're off to the races. And I think that, like, paradigm is still going to see play. I think that more people will split off from it and play some other stuff. I think there was, like, a list in there that was running, like, Tech Marines and was playing more vehicle-centric instead of running Calgar. But I do think that the two characters work together really well. And because they got discounted, you don't necessarily feel like you're overpaying for Calgar so much anymore either. So, like, Calgar for 300 points for him plus the company heroes is basically going to get his value less so than he did previously, because he's not generating you like 3-ish CP over the course of the game before he goes down, but just by killing people and soaking attacks. And I think that's most likely to continue. Yeah, but the big shockers here were, I guess not that surprising, but Tyranids, Blood Angels, also World Eaters. World Eaters randomly in the smaller tables of the game just see a lot of success, and I was kind of surprised by that. But what I want to talk about first, folks, is Thousand Suns, because it's new and shiny stuff. So I think it is time to hop over and look at some lists. So I have a big list of events from all of the events from the weekend that I took down that I want to talk about. The first one is this one right here, the St. Albans Slam. I tried to focus on events that were in the larger player count, not like little, 6 and 8 mans or whatever, but it's a little all over the place because it is sort of RTT 40k. But yeah, we saw Death Guard at the top 3. What a shocker. Really kind of breaking the metagame right here. What a wild time. But then also Sam McClinchy from 3D3 Wargaming. Is that like one half of 3D6 Wargaming? It's a laser cutting like neoprene manufacturer, but they only sell half of the objective markers at a time. All right, so here's what we're running in Thousand Suns. And I will say, I played a couple games with Thousand Suns. I played a game with Grand Coven, and I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. I think Grand Coven, there's a lot of discourse around Warpmeld and like how silly it is and like weirdly abusive the detachment ability is. But I think that Grand Coven, if you want to just do murders on people, is definitely the way to go. And I was surprised at how effective it felt. So this is double Infernal Master. One of them has the Eldritch Vortex. It's Arcane Vortex, but from Wish, except it just does the same thing. So it's actually one of the good things you buy from Wish, and not one of the ones that is just fake. An Infernal Master with Umberlific Crystal, so he can up down, and then a third Infernal Master just hanging out. We have a standard Sorcerer. Now, obviously, these guys are a little different now. They do provide lethal hits, but they themselves do a lot more damage. Their weapon is still sustained 3-6 shots, but they have the opportunity to improve their attacks and strength by 3 once per game, so they can kind of like just blitz out and absolutely ruin something with like this big sort of laser cannon shot if they ever feel like they need to. And then obviously Magnus the Red, and this is, if you want to play Magnus the Red, Grand Coven's definitely the way to do it. You have access to damage blanks in this detachment, plus you have plus 9 inches to range and full rerolls on psychic weapons. It's that stratagem's 2 CP, so it's only typically usable once or twice during the game before you start to run dry. But it basically means that like if you play Magnus KG, he can knock 2 of your opponent's like really powerful units by himself, while the rest of your army is trading, and then he anchors in your late game. So if he can kill like 2 battle tanks or 2 big brick units or really ruin 2 things, then once you get to like battle round 3, he just like sort of wanders up the table. The other thing is that if you choose the plus 6 inches of range, like Combat Doctrine ability from the detachment, he goes up to range 39 with that stratagem. So he's basically always a threat. Even though he doesn't have the maneuverability that he did in the Index, or he's moving like 32 inches or whatever. If you can tag your opponent with even like a micron of line of sight, he's basically always going to be in range. So he's like a huge threat in this detachment. We then have a bunch of Rubric Marines. Looks like 4 units of Rubric Marines to attach all 4 of the Sorcerer characters. 1 Chaos Rhino to bring them in. He's super useful because if you're not in the +1 to wound doctrine thing, then the Chaos Rhino can issue you +1 to wound when you disembark from it. So he's good to just carry the Infernal Masters around and just be obnoxious. 1 Predator Annihilator, a little bit of a heavy infantry clear there. Plus we get access to 2 las cannons, which are really high value in this faction, because like if Magnus is full rerolling stuff, oftentimes what he's going to do is cast 2 Kabbalistic Rituals onto another target, full reroll himself, and then blow up whatever he's shooting at. Then the rest of your army is probably full rerolls to hit, +1 or +2 AP, targeting the second thing, and you're going to knock 2 super heavy things down every turn. We have a Mutalith Vortex Beast, and he ensures that you can get empowered Kabbalistic Rituals off, because when you empower to roll the extra D6 on your Kabbalistic Ritual, he gives you an additional +1 to cast. So Magnus, if he just staples himself to the Mutalith Vortex Beast, he casts at +3 on 3d6. So you need to roll a 3d6 9 to get even your like boosted Twist of Fate off, which is really easy. And there's even a strat to reroll, although it's tough to find CP in this detachment. That's the one downside of this detachment, is that it is like, it's not even CP starved. It's like CP it's under some sort of CP famine. It's an actual like crime against humanity. The amount, the dearth of CP that this thing has. Stoked for ACO? Hell yeah, dude. I'm stoked for ACO too. It's gonna be my first time there, so I'm psyched. I think it's gonna be good. We've got a Fate Caster, Great Bow, Enlightened unit. These guys are hyper efficient, and I think that there's probably gonna be lists. We're gonna see probably more and more of these as this faction develops, especially once you start to consider the reroll hit ritual. These guys get really sort of silly in their output. For 80 points, so 16 points per model, you get 2 lethal hit, ignore cover, AP2, 2 damage shots. Once you buff those and they start rerolling hit rolls, they're only ballistic skill 4, which is the downside. But once you start rerolling your hit rolls, you have a good chance at scoring lethal hits, and you can go to AP3 ignore cover. So even into hard targets that there was like T10 or higher, they start to chip damage in. Against smaller stuff or medium infantry like Space Marine profiles, they are absolutely ruinous. Super duper scary profile. The other thing too, we don't have it in this list, but I believe that there's another one we'll talk about after this, if I remember correctly, that takes the disc sorcerers that now have an 18-inch lone operative leadership ability, and that actually allows you to play the Zangor Enlightened really aggressively, because you can either force your opponent to just eat 30-inch range shots every turn. You can just stand them out in the open and just pile drive 30-inch range 2 damage shots into people. If they want to come counterattack it, they're in range of both Magnus and all your sorcerers. So they're like, oh, I got to get rid of this unit. And the unit's relatively expensive at that point. It's like 180 points. But they come in, they might have to deal with reactive moves from the Zangor Enlightened. And they're moving within 18 inches of your army. So suddenly, the Rhino pushes forward, disembarks 2 Infernal Masters. Whatever they sent in there dies. And it's not like this unit like follows over immediately. They're not hard to kill. But it's still 12 wounds with a 5+ invulnerable save. Like, you do have to, plus the character probably doesn't die. So in order to actually remove the piece, you have to kind of overextend. And then a bunch of Zangors, because they're just phenomenally good. One of them, I guess, looks like awkwardly like doesn't have the command module, but surely a list building mistake. It's a Chaos Spawn as well for utility. Yeah, so I've played lists very similar to this, and I think that they're really good. I think that they are surprisingly strong. Just as peace trading and I mean, for a lot of the reasons that we saw Thousand Suns do well previously, they do much more damage now, is what it feels like. But they don't necessarily have the raw sort of maneuverability that they did in the past. What's my opinion on the Shaman in Covens? In Covens. Oh, in Grand Coven? So this list doesn't play any Zangor Shamans. I don't know how I feel about that. In my opinion, you're always playing Zangor Shamans. But, I mean, I've only played a couple of games of Thousand Suns, so I don't know necessarily. But I think the Zangor Shaman is like one of the better data sheets in that codex. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but it is fast. It can cast rituals, get weird lines of sight. It can empower your other stuff. So we have things like the Predator Destructor over here, who only benefits from his, it's an Annihilator. I think I said it was a Destructor before, but it's definitely an Annihilator for the last cannons. He only benefits from his rerolls, from his Annihilator rerolls, if you have tagged the target with a psychic attack earlier in the turn. So he's good at finishing off stuff that like Infernal Master shot at, but the other thing you can do is just run a Zangor Shaman out, ping them with his little blast attack, which probably doesn't do any damage, but then the Annihilator flips on and laser cannons them. I think that they're really good. I wouldn't take them like exclusively instead of other utility. I would take 1 or 2, but I think that they're probably underplayed. Plus they're psychers, so you can like do damage blanks and stuff on them. If your opponent converts like 1 big hit on them and it's like, I'm gonna kill that guy with this 1 attack, you're like, I'll 0 it, and then I just hold this objective or whatever, or I just keep my piece around. So I like them a lot. Can you mix Tzeentch demons with Zangor? So you can play the scintillating the Tzeentch demon detachment, which I forget the name of. If I pull up my Thousand Suns Codex here, I will remember the name. If I can remember how to spell Thousand Suns, Jesus. The name of the demon detachment for Thousand Suns is called... it's Deceivers or something? Change Host of Deceit. If you play Change Host of Deceit, you can play Tzeentch demons alongside Zangor units. Here's the downside, chat, and I say this with the utmost sadness. Change Host of Deceit is really bad. So you can do it. Should you do it? Probably not. But you do you, fam. It unfortunately doesn't really bring none of the abilities like crossover. The demons don't really buff the Thousand Sun stuff outside of the detachment abilities. And it doesn't really have the damage output buffs that Tzeentch demons need to be good. It's just like you're just playing with raw demon data sheets without really any benefits for them, which is like super not great. Which sucks really hard because I think that like running Kairos Fate Weaver and stuff inside Thousand Suns is really cool and thematic. Just like a Space Marine 2. Fucking the end of Space Marine 2 is like you were fighting a Lord of Change and a bunch of Thousand Sun Psychers. It's cool. I want to do that. But it's not good. It doesn't give you 40 free bloodletters. What's attachment gives you 40 free bloodletters, chat? And any phase of the course of the game. In fairness, Khorne Demonkin doesn't give you free bloodletters. It gives you weird rapid ingress bloodletters. You still have to buy the bloodletter. If they were free, that would be wild. That detachment would be so much better than it is. All right, we have more Thousand Suns to talk about. That was not the only one, but congratulations to Sam McClinchy for going undefeated. This one has a bunch of memes, which I appreciate. I think we should all appreciate. It's kind of free. Like their movement is free. That's a way to do it. When Lord of Contagion and his Death Shroud get blown away in one activation, and it's down to the Lord of Contagion, does he still get Feel No Pain from the Death Shroud during the same activation? We had a really long discussion about this. I believe that the answer is yes, because it's like a bodyguard effect, right? I'm just gonna verify the ability. We had a big long talk about this with the Hive Tyrant. I believe that a Hive Tyrant attached to Tyrant Guard does get his Feel No Pain until the end of the activation, but it's like really shaky. So if I would not be shocked if they rules commentated it. Yeah, so the Death Shroud Terminators, just to be clear, just to answer the question real quickly, while a character is leading the Death Shroud Terminator units, the character model has a Feel No Pain 4+. When the Death Shroud Terminators are destroyed, the character is considered to be leading that unit until the end of the attacking unit's activation. So I believe that you will still gain the Feel No Pain 4+. I've actually asked some event judges how they feel about this, and the results have been mixed because there are obviously no models with this ability remaining in the unit for that ability to proc. But the character is considered to be leading a Death Shroud Terminator's unit until the end of the attacking unit's activation. So I think the implication is that he does get it, but it's really weird. So I believe that the answer is yes, but I would ask your TO. Basically, is the long and short of it. At Maryland Open, they ruled it this way. He does get it. Well, that's good. That's good precedent, I guess. Although, U.S. Open events sometimes rule like funny things that aren't necessarily correct. So I don't know. Let's. Castle and Robots also have it. Cool. Well, I mean, there's a bunch of units that have that ability, right? If you shoot it with another unit, then yeah. If they die to the first activation, then the second unit shooting at the Lord of Contagion will not get he will not get the benefit against the second unit. Only the one where the other one. What's my opinion on the Steelers' defense? Steelers' offense this season? I think you mean the Gene Steelers' offense, and I'm offended by them, so I think it's working very well. All right, let's talk about some more Thousand Suns, folks. This one is let's get. Oh, I think that I have only copied the list and not the event. That is what I did. Let me see if I can get the event page and get all the information. What have I done today? My notes have been corrupted by chaos. What did I do? Jesus. Okay, I figured it out. Here we go. Here's the event. So this is 18 players. The 1UP Games 1UP Open. This one was won by not only Tyranids, and we can talk about Tyranids in a little bit here, chat. If we want to talk about this version of Tyranids, we can do that. But also Morgan Gladson, going 3-0 with 1,000 Suns. There's a bunch of memes. I think it's something about science denial. I don't know. It's a lot. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot to unpack. But this list does have the Exalted Sorcerer. It's a Grand Coven again. We're still running index style 1,000 Suns, but we are taking the Exalted Disc Sorcerers that I just talked about. So we have Infernal Master of the Eldritch Vortex, Magnus the Red, double Sorcerer, plus an Umberlific Crystal. So we get a little redeployment guy. 2 Exalted Sorcerers, and those guys, take a peek here, I think are going to attach into these Great Bow, Fate Caster, Great Bow, Enlightened units. Now, I played 2 of these guys when I played Grand Coven, and I thought they were fucking awesome. So, Morgan Gladson, you and I are on the same page, my dude. So, like I talked about before, the big benefit is that these dudes shoot 1,000,000 inches. And they're sort of annoying to engage with, because they're, like, kind of beefy. They're not super beefy, but, like a scout squad's not going to kill them. So you have to kind of overcommit to kill them, but you have to come within 18 inches, which just means the rest of the army's like, I'm going to kill you. So you can kind of play a little fast and loose with them, whereas normally 1,000 Suns would be like, a unit in the open, it's going to die. My poor Rubric Marines will be dead. Now, the unit can play kind of in the middle, and if your opponent overextends to kill them, Magnus shoots them, Sorcerers shoot them, Infernal Masters shoot them, everything blows them up. So you don't want to overextend into 1,000 Suns army, but the alternative is that they score points and they shoot you with Great Bows all game. So I think the combination of those 2 units is phenomenal. I think it's super good. The downside is that the Exalted Sorcerer himself is actually much shorter range than the rest of his unit. He's only range 18, but the unit shoots 30. So he's like sitting in the back, like twiddling his thumbs for the first turn or two, because oftentimes you don't want to push him too far forward to get him in range, because then he'll just die too. But he's not easy to kill. He's got 4+ invuln save with 6 wounds. You can damage blank on him too. So sometimes the unit will just your opponent will jump in, kill the unit, and he'll just be there. He's also good in melee. He's got 5 attacks, potentially like devastating wounds and stuff. So he can fight his way out of a utility unit pretty well too. And then from there, we're running 3 units of Rubric Marines to attach the Sorcerers and the Infernal Master into Chaos Rhino to deliver them. Triple Mutalith Vortex Beast. Okay. Just such a good profile. They did get significantly debuffed. I guess they got a side grade a little bit. Their melee is much worse than it was in the index, but their ranged attack is fucking awesome. They shoot 36 inches on their beam profile, so it's never... it's hard to get out of that range. Plus, then they benefit your empowered rituals as well with that +1 to cast, so you can very consistently get off your supercharged rituals. It's just pretty good. And then we got a Zangor unit for some utility. So I like this list quite a bit. I think this is a pretty good one. This is very similar to what I would play. Triple Mutalith Vortex Beast is a trip. That's a lot, but clearly they're effective. So that's pretty solid. Is this an Age of Sigmar list? Yes, yes it is. Love that the Enlightened unit leader is called an Aviarch. Yeah, he doesn't do anything, but that has been his name traditionally, which is neat. So yeah, that's some 1,000 Suns. I'm interested to see whether 1,000 Suns end up seeing play with some of the other detachments, because we've talked about their vehicle detachment being effective. It's a little kind of stodgier than I imagined it being. I played a test game with it. I think it's up on my replay channel. It was not the greatest game in the world. I don't think I played particularly well, and I got some unlucky rolls on the, what do you call them? Kabbalistic rituals, but which I think that you almost always need an outlet for empowered Kabbalistic rituals to get a bonus. So the Mutalith Vortex Beast is kind of big because he can just ensure, he smooths over the variance of Kabbalistic rituals so nicely, because you can just be like, oh, I need 2 to get my ritual off or my empowerment. I'll just roll the 3rd dice, and I know I'm minimum getting +2, so I'll just do it without having to gamble, which is very nice. And that's oftentimes where you fit in the bell curve with the 2d6 roll. The thing I was a little bit confused, or the thing that I wasn't super happy with was kind of the maneuverability. You can double move one thing, but each individual vehicle in Thousand Suns doesn't hit super hard. You need to really be stacking up all the buffs on them, and it was difficult to get a lot. This is Warp Forged Cabal was the answer. It was difficult to get a lot of things on target because they ended up sort of getting in each other's way, and there's no way to go through walls and no way to like advance and shoot or anything. You're just like hanging out and playing regular 40k. But I do think Warp Meld Pact is the other real open question. And I think that it's going to be down to the community to sort of unlock that detachment. There's also some weirdness with the detachment that it's probably worth talking about. We had I played against it on stream over the weekend, and it's probably worth kind of discussing exactly how this ability works, because I definitely misquoted it the first time that I read it. And there's some weirdness that can occur. And I'm not sure that everyone's like totally cognizant of like how silly it can be. The weird part is that there is a rule in the Warhammer 40,000 Rules commentary, which I do not like because it redefines a lot of rules that would otherwise work perfectly normal by themselves. But it says that if an effect would make a unit an ineligible target for an attack, then before the attack is rolled, then you can select a new target for the attack, right? If retroactively something prevents you from being able to select a unit as a target, then you must select a new target. So this effect has a timing that works alongside that FAQ, and there have been some event formats that have ruled against this because I think it's really abusive. Some have ruled for this, and I think we're just gonna need a bug fixing FAQ for the Thousand Suns Codex that clears this up. The problem is that this effect to sacrifice Tzeentch mutants, and I believe that you can sacrifice multiple times for no additional benefit. So, like, to multiple attack targeting. So I think you can actually, like, manipulate this over the course of a phase. But let's say you have a 20-man Tzeentch mutant unit, a Zangor unit. You get shot, but you only have 3 models in line of sight. If you then choose to sacrifice in response to that attack, you suffer the 3 mortals, and you roll 3 for the mortals, and you pull the 3 models that are in line of sight. Suddenly, retroactively, the attacking unit's out of line of sight of you, which means you're not an eligible target, so they must select a new target. And then you just go and you use the stratagem to regenerate people back to the unit. Blessed transmutations. You just put those 3 dudes back into the front, and then you retake the objective you are on. It's problematic. It also, for some reason, works in melee this way, and I thought when I had first read this that it was only affecting ranged attacks, but it also works in melee attacks. If you get pulled out of engagement or base of base while you're targeting a Tzeentch mutant unit, and they sacrifice in response to your attacks, you can actually pull multiple models in an attacking unit from being able to select you, which means that their attacks just fizzle. So it's not I think it's unintended, but it's definitely, this ability is much more powerful than it looks like because of its ability to like affect your position on the battlefield, which is a lot, unfortunately. So anyway, I'm curious to see when people figure this detachment out, because I do think that there's a lot of power here. Obviously, we'll see if it ends up being changed at some point. All right, chats, that's a lot about Thousand Suns. What should we talk about next? Obviously, there's a lot of Tyranid to talk about. I do have a lot. There were some very good results from Tau, which we haven't seen in a while, which is kind of cool. We also saw Adeptus Mechanicus, Aeldari, Drukhari with undefeated results. Shadow Legion, even post-nerf. As well as approximately 1 million Blood Angels players. The fight phase interaction is super lame. Yeah, I agree. I don't think it should work that way. And honestly, I think that the rules commentary section was really poorly thought out. It was, I think, I don't understand it, to be perfectly honest, because all of this the reason that it was written was for stratagems that give you lone operative or can't be targeted outside X distance. And I think that people complained that such stratagems didn't have an effect immediately. They would only have an effect on subsequent attacks. And Games Workshop like bowed to pressure or something. And we're like, oh, we should make it so it affects immediately, which means that it literally breaks the core rules, right? Because the core rules are, once you have selected a unit as a target, you resolve your attacks targeting that unit regardless of the board state. Once you've selected that your attacks are locked in, and you'll continue to resolve them. This rules commentary entry totally counteracts that and says, no. If something pulls you out of range or makes you untargetable, it works retroactively, even though nothing in any of those rules would imply that. So if you didn't know about that rules commentary and you use like Dark Obscuration or whatever on a unit, you would assume that it gives you Lone Operative or a Lone Operative effect for the next activation, and stealth for this activation. But no, lo and behold, it actually worked. It's like much more powerful than you think it would be. So I don't understand the reason that they made that rules commentary. I didn't like it when it happened, and it's unfortunate that it's continuing to have like these knock-on effects where other random abilities can be affected by it. So I don't know. All right. Let's talk about Adeptus Mechanicus real quick. It looks like Ryan G wants to talk about Adeptus Mechanicus. We have an ad mech undefeated here, chat. We get to talk about momentarily. We're going to shift our focus over to the Twin Dragons RTT down in Florida. And we had a bunch of undefeated players. This is Ultramarine Gladius Task Force. Tyranids, which we'll talk about in a sec. Like I said, lots of Tyranid undefeateds. Subterranean Assault might be too good. Anthony Wu with Adeptus Mechanicus. And it's real if I'm saying the Tyranids chat. Anthony Wu running a Halo Screed Battle Clade with the new improvements to Castle and Robots, or potentially, are we running Castle and Robots? No. Get fucked. All right, I'm going to make sure that I remember what all of the enhancements are called here. We have a Tech Priest Dominus with Cognitive Reinforcement. That is, both Conquer and Protector Imperative. That's usually good for Cataphrone Breachers, which we are running. All right, so we have the double Breacher Wombo combo. So Cataphrone Breachers have good shooting, a bunch of heavy arc rifle attacks, reroll hits if they're targeting enemies on objectives, all that stuff. Or it's reroll hits if they are near battle line. I think it's easier than that, right? It's weirdly like just the easiest. Yeah, it's within 6 inches of a battle line unit. Yeah, not on objectives. That's Centurions. It's the easiest battle line payoff ever. Just bring battle line unit, get full reroll hits. Love it. So they have 1 million attacks, and they're good in melee as well. They have strength 8, AP 2, 3 damage, hydraulic claw attacks. The downside is that previously they could only choose one or the other of the abilities, either +1 to hit in shooting or +1 to hit in melee. They couldn't do both, but Halo Screed Battle Clade's like, hold my beer, we're fine. We're gonna give you both of those effects. Now the Dominus also gives them a 5+ feel no pain, so the unit's going to be relatively tanky as well, and can potentially also benefit from like -1 to hit in melee too. Hey,
Elizabeth Theo donated $4.99 through Super Chat. More robot spam please and thank you lol.
Indeed, more robot spam please. I agree. Thank you so much for the Super Chat, Elizabeth. Yeah, I'm interested to see if people sort of figure out the Cataphron robots. They're still them getting like big bonuses from the Cybernetica cohort detachments really good. Where did my music just go? I think I closed it by accident. And I really like their I like the fact that they're sort of gaining positive effects rather than just like not losing sort of negative effects. But I do think they maybe need to come down in cost. They're not hard enough to kill, I feel, for their cost. But that might just be me. I don't know. Maybe I'm a silly goober. Because they're trying to do everything, right? They're trying to be tanky. They're mortal wound reflection, and they can buff toughness and like stack defensive effects. They're trying to be shooty, and they're trying to hit hard in melee. But when you choose to do all three of those things, you end up like it's like a master of none, right? So your opponent's like, I don't really care that much about this unit. So I would love to see them drop like 10 points a model or something. I think that would help quite a bit, because then you can actually trade with them, because they always trade down right now, which sucks. And that's a real problem for those big those multi-model vehicle units currently. I was just playing Carnifexes the other day, and I was like, this unit's so cool. Look at all these things it does. And then you look at the points value of what you killed, and it's like 70 points. And you look at the points value of the thing you killed it with, and it's like 400 points. And you're like, this is probably not worth it. Yeah, so anyway, for this list, the second unit is a Tech Priest Manipulus with the Sanctified Ordnance. So that's the additional range on your ranged weapon, so additional 6 inches of range, plus you can reroll hazardous tests. This is basically like basically built specifically for Cataphrone Destroyers, because they're going to be running the Plasma Culverins, who are a baseline hazardous if they overcharge. They shoot 1,000,000 times, and they overwatch well as well, and they have a flamer. So what they want is extra range for the flamer and reroll hazardous for the Plasma Culverin, so they don't just kill their own unit. And that's exactly what they get with this enhancement. So this combo was basically built to play multiple Cataphrone units together, and that's what we're doing. We then also have double Skitarii Rangers, double Skitarii Vanguard to turn on all of our battle line synergies. 2 units of Terexi Sterilizors for flaming, some hot flaming action, plus 2 units of Sicarian Rust Stalkers. Interesting, it's 2 of 5. I guess they're just disruption pieces, but they're so strong in this detachment because you can push their speed up to absolutely incredible. I think their average threat range is 24 inches. So sometimes you just see a big brick of 10 and they just hammer blow your opponent and super duper kill something and then continue on. And in this case, they're just going to be used to knock off opponents off of objectives with that threat range. And then 3 units of I was reading this. It's 3 units of 3 Sydonian Dragoons with tasers. These just did get points cut. I believe they went down, right? Is that the case in the Munitorum? I think that's the case. I'm going to fact check myself on that real quick. I think they went down 5 points a model. I think they were 75. It was Sydonian. Survey says... yes, they did go down 5 points a model. This actually lists the old points. That's interesting. I wonder if it's actually just calculating it somewhere else. But 3 units of 3. So I guess what we can do, right, in Halo Screed Battleclade is we can make them super fast. So the baseline... the baseline Sydonian Dragoon profile. Let's take a peek at these guys. I'm going to pull up my 39K and take a quick look. The baseline profile is move 10, T7, 7 wounds. They're coming in at 4+ weapon scale, but we can buff that to 3, obviously, with Conquer Imperative. Sustained hits 2 Lance. Anti-Walker 2. Let's go. So it's a pretty solid profile, right? You're winning basically the entire game on 4s or better on the charge. You can, in Halo Screed Battleclave, push them to movement 12. And you can potentially override them. What's the name of the stratagem? It is Neural Overload. To gain a second bonus, so you can give them advance and charge. So you can give them move 12, advance and charge, and you can basically just stagger multiple of these units into your opponent's army. You can also gain 5+ critical hits with targeting override, so that they sustain on 5s as well. They also don't care so much about receiving damage from Neural Overload because they have 1 trillion wounds, right? It's 21 wounds in the unit. This unit actually seems nuts in Halo's Creed. Advance and charge on 21 wounds with a sustained hits to land. So it's sustained hits to if it's... So it should... Hitting on 3s convert just about all of its hits. If you critical 5 up, I think they average like... You're getting plus like 0.7 of a hit out of 4 attack, or 0.7 of an additional critical out of 4 attacks, which means that you're averaging like 1.5 extra hits per model. So the unit hits on average like 22 times with strength 7 lance AP 2 damage. So you're probably handing your opponent like 10-ish AP 2 damage saves against something that's higher than your strength. Otherwise, you just win them on 2s and you hand them a million saves. This unit seems amazing, actually. I'm sure we've seen them before. I just haven't talked about them in a while, I think. Yeah. AP 3 in Conqueror. I think that's correct, yeah. If they can get a battle line unit up near them, right? Yeah. Yeah, I imagine that they'll charge. But their bases are really big. So one thing that you can often do is like you can stagger them, right? So you engage with a guy in the front and then you base him with a guy in the back. And you're actually about 8 or 9 inches away from your charge target. So you can actually have a battle line unit pretty far away. Because I think their bases are like 4-ish inches wide. Or long, I should say. So I think you can have a battle line unit that's like 14 or 15 inches away from the charge target in order to benefit from the +1. If you can set that up. It's a little bit funny because you have to usually... Maneuvering opal bases is really weird. But they are mounted, I think. Oh, no, they're vehicles. So they pay 2 inches to rotate, which is a little bit awkward. Yeah, the maneuverability is probably the biggest tough part. But you can do rapid ingress plays and stuff with them, and it's probably fine. They're trying to be Eldar. Yeah, this is real Shining Spear energy for sure. Indeed. What does Lance keyword mean? Yeah, +1 and wound on the charge. Yeah, that's correct. That's why they're wounding everything on 4s, basically. There's very little in the game that's toughness 14 or higher. So they're at a baseline wounding you on 5s. The +1 brings them to 4s. If you're T6 or lower, they just wound you on 2s, regardless, which means that they're gonna like cleave through heavy infantry. Yeah, I missed this at the first time I read this list. I was like, it's okay. It's like normal Halo Screed stuff. There's like the double Cataphrine unit and stuff like that. I just missed this little casual 600 points of Sydonian Dragoons just like hiding in the back over here. That's super terrifying. Oh man, Elizabeth, hell yeah! Cheers for learning stuff. We're always be learning over here. Speaking of Aeldari, there was some Aeldari doing well. This with new points. Look at that. We saw an Aspect host. Ruben Fernandez also went 3-0 at the same event. Running Aspect host. 9 Dragoons too much money. Are Plague Marines in a Fabius Bile list worth it? So there's a little bit of clarification to be done. The implication is that Plague Marine's ability, their data sheet ability, turns off when you play them outside of Death Guard. But the way it's worded is really weird, and there could be a ruling that it does not turn off their ability to afflict you. If it ends up that they FAQ the Death Guard Codex, because we haven't really seen that too many clarification FAQs on them. If it turns out that they can reduce toughness on people when they shoot them, I actually think that they're going to be pretty good. Otherwise, they're. I don't know if I would say that they're it's worth going out of your way for them. You want to be able to push defensive stats up really high. And they're just they get to T7, which is fine, I guess. But I don't know. It's it's not a breakpoint that a ton of weapon profiles care too much about. In fact, very few do. So I don't know. I wouldn't be more excited about them. Mm-mm-mm. 9 Dragoons is 400 MSRP. Fuck me. Yeah, that's it. That is a problem with Adeptus Mechanicus, is that it is too expensive to play, which has always been the case for whatever reason. All right. Let's talk about Aspect Host. So Ruben Fernandez running Ashermen, a standard Autarch. If they get to inflict people, the mean beam and ballistic skill bio becomes real. Hell yeah, dude. I think they become legitimately good in like basically hybrid detachment, right? If they can inflict people. I doubt that will be the case. But it is weird that they're the only cult marine whose ability doesn't work, right? They're like, it's weird that they just don't like have any datasheet abilities. They're just a brick of stats. And their stats are like fine. But I don't know if I would be like super excited about taking them. Like the benefit is that you get two heavy melee weapons in them versus like or Legionnaires where you get one, or you get 3, I guess, right? 1 on the champion and then 2 on the unit. But like I could also just like Legionnaires get wound rerolls and stuff. So like I don't know. Yeah, no dark pacts. Yeah. Oh yeah, I guess they are just like lethal. They basically just dark pact for sure. Champion 1 guy? Oh, it's only 2 heavy melees. Oh, okay. Yeah, but then they're just rocking plasmas and stuff. But you need like some sort of synergy that makes plasmas good. They're good in Death Guard because they can like +1. They -1 toughness, +1 strength, or +1 AP. 5 up critical, lethal sustain, right? So like suddenly a plasma gun shooting you with all those like layered buffs on something is like the same as a tank gun. But you don't necessarily have that in Chaos Space Marines, right? You can be like, I don't know, +1 AP from Renegade Raiders and like +1 AP from the Sorcerer Lord. Neat. Anyway, chat. Let's talk about Eldar. So we're running Ashermen, an Autarch, Fuegan, Janezar, Lycus. Hot damn. Okay. We have a Storm Guardian unit for the backline, a Wave Serpent, probably to deliver Howling Banshees, if I had to guess. We have a Dire Adventure unit, Falcon, Fire Dragon. So it's the 10 model Fire Dragon unit for Fuegan. So the big benefit here, obviously, is that we get Skyborn Sanctuary inside Aspect Host, and we get reroll once to hit, +2 Aspect Shrine tokens. So you can do a lot of weird, funny stuff with that, where you're like triggering like sustained hits off of Fuegan's like lance attack multiple times, or auto wounding off of stuff. So those are obviously like super nice to have. And then he's extending their range quite a bit, so they can actually realistically split fire. And then you can Skyborn Sanctuary them back into the Wave Serpent. So it's definitely not for Howling Banshees. It's definitely for 10 Fire Dragons. Pretty good stuff. We have a Falcon, probably for Ashermen. I love this combo, and I feel like we only see it every once in a while. And a lot of people like poo-poo it because they say it's not good. But I think it's neat. We put Ashermen inside the Wave Serpent, and then he jumps out, or excuse me, the Falcon, and he jumps out with his Dire Avengers and Super Saiyans himself. You can give him like sustained hits, and then he turns himself into a 3 damage devastating gun, and he, with full rerolls, like gives you 6 hits, averages 1 devastates, rerolls into 2 devastates, drops an Aspect Shrine token into 3 devastating wounds, and it hits you for 9 damage. I think that's cool. Is it good? Maybe not, but is it cool? Very much so. And then the Dire Avengers just slink back into the Falcon after with the move and shoot to do the same thing next turn. Well, they can't do the same thing. That's a once per game, but they can hop out and clear infantry the next turn. So you love to see it. Another Fire Dragon unit just to shoot people. The Howling Banshee squads x2. So 1 for Janezar and 1 for the Autarch. Now I'm gonna level with you, chat. I forget what Janezar gives them. It is auto 6 advances. Oh, that's that's a good. So you get one unit that what's the cost difference between her and an Autark? It's 20 points now. So the Autark hits, I guess, like it's kind of a side grade, right? Jane'Zar does hit harder. She's anti-infantry 3, 8 attacks. Fuck me. Okay. She's only 2 damage, but she attacks twice as many times. So that's pretty good. And I think she has +1 to hit, right? I think that the Autark hits on 3s with the glaive. Her gun isn't as good, but she flat 6s your advance, whereas the Autark rerolls your advance roll. So he has like 75% of her maneuverability. But now that Autarks are more expensive, Jane'Zar does feel like a pretty good alternative to them. Especially if you're not going into T12 stuff. And you have 15 Fire Dragons. You'll find a way to kill T12 stuff. Jane'Zar and the Autark can do some serious damage into lighter units. So that feels okay. And then we have double Rangers, double Shining Spears. Okay. Well, speaking of T12, AT Monster Anti-Vehicle 3, let's go. Plus a Warlock Skyrunner for utility, plus a Warp Spider unit for utility. Wild. Double Shining Spears. Okay. They do have the rerolls baked in from Aspect Host. Reroll once they hit or wound, whatever you want. I don't know if they have any, like... You could give them... Yeah, there's like no real like super like big synergy with them. I think they're just trading units now that they're cheaper. 110 for them seems okay. They feel a little bit like the they're like a we talked for a while about Thunderwolf Cavalry, and they feel a little bit like Thunderwolf Cavalry. It's like it's 6 OC, right? Because they're 2 OC apiece. So they're not bad at taking objectives from like small units. Their damage output is good. They're way more maneuverable. But they're much easier to kill. They're 2 lower toughness and 1 lower wound and a lower invulnerable save. Like basically die instantly. But they can basically get anywhere they need to if you can or the 2 lower ones, excuse me. Jesus. But if you can stage them, right, they can basically just access your opponent's like home objective. So a lot of this list I think is like threat overload. You want to set up for a turn and then you drop out 1,000,000 Fire Dragons plus the Dire Avengers plus a bunch of Howling Banshees. All of the Fire Dragons and the Dire Avengers hide at the end. So you have to kill their transport and then kill them. You probably don't have enough beef to kill all of the Howling Banshees, the Warp Spiders who are probably like running into your backline, plus the Shining Spears, plus the dedicated transports with the shooting units inside, which means you're probably left with like a 10 brick of Fire Dragons that just gets to shoot you again, which is not a good place to be. That's usually what most people would consider a bad time. And then you explode, probably. So, yeah, the new and improved Shining Spears, now that they're a little bit cheaper, actually seems pretty legit, to be honest. 110 just for like 6 OC, basically anywhere you need it to be. It's pretty good. Ability to move through walls is solid with those guys. Also, Jane'Zar's model is really cool. Also, big benefit there for sure. Yeah, she was a big glow up in 9th edition. Huge one. Eldar list with no Yvrain. Yeah, I think that Yvrain's on the chopping block now. I don't know if we're going to see Yvrain for the rest of the edition, unfortunately. She got absolutely dumpstered in the most brutal way possible, unfortunately. The Ballad's data slate for her was ruinous, which is unfortunate because I liked her as a concept. I think it's cool. I don't know. It's cool if Eldar could have like melee units that are good, but it feels like they just want to make them this like close range shooting army, which I guess I understand, but it is what it is. All right, chat. Is it time to talk about Tyranids? That is alliteration of the highest order, which I appreciate. Yvrain going the way of the Ynnari books? Are it like novels? Did Ynnari novels get like canceled or something? Grab my linky. Oops. Did it again. They canceled the series? What? Really? Why? Because nobody cared? I don't know. I don't know anything about Ynnari lore. Besides all, the only thing I know of Ynnari lore is through like Gilliman memes, basically. Yeah, data site nerfed the books. Yeah, so I guess it's before we like totally move off of Aeldari, we can talk about what happened. The balanced data slate it changed like basically 1 trillion rules for Ynnari in really, really like devastating ways. So to the point that I think it was way too harsh. Just pull up the Eldar section here. Yeah, here we go. Unfortunately, my viewer is not set up for this. Here we go. So the lethal intent went from moving anything on the board to moving infantry or mounted, and it went from moving anything on the board to moving infantry or mounted within 6 of a unit that was destroyed, and it went from moving its full movement to moving d6+1. So it was like double nerfed. And then Yvrain was changed to full wound rerolls if you succeed the minigame of getting Yvrain into engagement range of a target at the start of the fight phase before you pile in. Which isn't hard, but it does add a pretty important rider to her ability. And it used to give Eldar units targeting that unit wound rerolls. They were like, no, too strong. Now it gives you wound rerolls of 1. You're like, okay, so I brought a 100-point character to give me situational rerolls of 1 in melee only. Okay. Just literally never going to play her, I think. I wish that they had, if they didn't like the timing or something, I wish they had made it like a leadership ability. Like while she's leading a unit, they gain wound rerolls, or they gain wound rerolls targeting an enemy that she's engaging or something like that. But I don't know. Part of the, I guess, like maybe the issue was that you could double attach her with the Vice Arc, and then you had 2 sets of devastating weapons in the unit. So you had like, it was like 10 multi-damage devastating attacks with wound rerolls, which is really good. But it was also like a 300 and some odd point like brick of guys that you had to deliver. And if they were nerfing lethal intent, it would have been harder. It was gonna be harder to deliver anyway. So that all like would have nerfed it passively, but they basically just made this ability like a huge nothing burger. It's like jumping through a bunch of hoops to get a really minor benefit. Because especially the unit that you're this isn't like a unit of guys with strength 11 weapons and lance or whatever. They're strength 4. So like they needed full wound rerolls to get damage through. And then they also went back and they upcharged the Incubi unit they attached to, and they also upcharged the Archon, which used to also give, or which still gives full wound rerolls. So which nobody played because your raid was good. And they were like, oh, well, the people will just take the alternative, so let's nerf that too. Okay, I don't know. It was like, it felt like it felt like a very aggressive response to something that was, it definitely was too strong, but I don't know if it was too strong. That too strong. Refused to play a single game with Ynnari. Everyone knew lethal intent wouldn't stay. Yeah, I think that's certainly the case too. The problem was that I think it was like they should have just hit lethal intent off the bat. Like once the codex released and was out for a couple of weeks, people were like, clearly you're supposed to play Ynnari, right? And if they had just hit it to be like, you move D6 inches instead of you move 14, like that, people would have been like, okay, we'll explore some other stuff. And then I think the there would have been some faction diversity, some like internal faction, exploration. But because it was like everything was Ynnari all the time, and now nothing will be Ynnari ever again, everyone's just like, fuck it, and they just left. Because they also then got other stuff that Ynnari typically played also nerfed. because it was good in Ynnari, even though you can't play Ynnari anymore. So I don't know. They sort of fumbled the faction. But what a shocker. Games Workshop like fumbles Aeldari making them broken on release again. Crazy. What a time to be alive. Every time. Every single time they release. I don't understand. All right. We're going to go back to the 1-up open over here and talk about the Tyranids. So the other undefeated, I think the actual winner for the event, right? No, second place placer for the event was Drew Townsend, running Subterranean Assault, one of the like 10 undefeated Subterranean Assault lists I read through in preparation for this. So let's talk very quickly about what Subterranean Assault does, because this detachment is fucking wild. And I think I've played so many games of this, and a lot of people understand it at like kind of a base level, but don't really comprehend like exactly what this detachment can do, because it's like super weird. So here's the deal. When you set up your borrower units, which are all your snakes, Trigons, Molochs, Raveners, hyper-adapted, when they set up on the battlefield from reserve, regardless of how they arrive, rapid ingress, normal deep strike, coming out from another table marker, they place a 40mm marker within 1 inch, more than 3 inches away from enemies. Then you can bring other units from reserve that includes normal deep strike, like up downs and stuff like that, and strategic reserves. And you can set them up wholly within 9 inches of the tunnel marker, 6 inches away from enemies. There are no restrictions on who can do this and what they can do afterwards. So a lot of people said, okay, all I have to do is screen out your 9-inch deep strike. You won't be able to get in. You go, no. I just have to place the marker 3 inches away from, like more than 3 inches away from you. The marker doesn't have to be 9 inches away from you. The marker can be closer than 9. If I deploy a Trigon, the Trigon can be closer than 9, and then deploy the marker closer than 9, and then everyone else can deploy inside what you thought was being screened, because it then gets 6-inch deep strike when it's coming next to that tunnel marker. So this detachment essentially has the ability. You should always essentially consider that anything in the Tyranid army at any time can 6-inch deep strike, unless there is literally no way for them to deep strike a Trigon. Then they will have to 9-inch deep strike one thing, and then everything in their army can 6-inch deep strike. And that's super powerful. The other thing is that the detachment has 2 really powerful stratagems. Retreat Below lets you put up to 2 borrowers into strat reserve and then bounce them up at the end of your opponent's turn, and then bounce them up during your next turn. If they are borrowers, then they have deep strike, and so they can do this on turn 1. Unlike normal stuff, if you strategic reserve off the side of the table, then you can't do that. But if you actually, I think everything can do it now. Now I'm coming to think of it. This hasn't come up for me because I always do this with Molochs, but I think that anything can turn 1 deep strike with this if you have borrowers also in reserve, because the borrowers can drop a marker and then you can come in from that marker out of strat reserve. The restriction on strat reserve is that you can't come in turn 1 if you have no other way to place on the battlefield other than coming off a table edge, because the restrictions are that no table edges are eligible for strat reserves to come out until battle round 2. But if you can come out of the borrow marker, I think you can strat reserve out turn 1, but it usually doesn't matter. The other thing that you can do, and the reason, what you're probably going to do, is assuming you start on the battlefield, I should say. You have to start on the battlefield and then up down in order to come in turn 1. If you start off, you need some sort of special ability that allows you to come in on turn 1, which does exist in this attachment too. So the other thing is this stratagem, which I think is I did not necessarily respect when we did our review last week how powerful this stratagem is. It's crazy. It's usable at the end of your movement phase on any Tyranid unit, no restrictions. It is wholly within 9 inches of 1 or more table markers, tunnel markers. Here's the thing. You can use it on whatever you want. You can use it on monsters. You can use it on aircraft. You can use it on Titanic units. You can also use it on units in engagement range, as long as they're not wholly within 9 inches. And because this occurs at the end of your movement phase, it's automatically after you've done all of your other reserves, which means you will have built tunnel markers already at the time you use this stratagem. So you can have a unit that you want to use tunnel network on, and you just place burrowers wherever you need that, wherever that unit is and wherever you need it to be, and you'll automatically be able to pull it off. So as long as you have a critical mass of burrowing units, this stratagem lets you do basically anything you goddamn want. It's so crazy. So then the unit dives into one tunnel marker, goes through the Nidus Canal, and then pops out another tunnel marker. The interesting thing about this stratagem is that it requires setup. So you can't really do it like top of turn one, because if you're going first, you have no tunnel markers available, and if you're going second, you need to like build tunnel markers in your deployment zone so that you can jump into them, which I think is neat. It is really easy to place tunnel markers, so I don't think that is super annoying, but it does let you, like, usually by round 3 you'll have like 20 tunnel markers on the table, but it does let you basically perfectly redeploy yourself without having to go into strategic reserve. So you essentially have the ability to redeploy any 2 of your snakes and any one of literally anything else with this strat every single round. Plus, if you have Raveners, all the Raveners will redeploy themselves for free. Most lists, it looks like, are running 2-ish Ravener units, which means you're redeploying up to 5 units per turn. So your whole army redeploys itself. Like literally half of your units will pick themselves up and move their position every round, which is fucking insane. And it all 6-inch deep strikes. The maneuverability this army has is nuts. I think once we start to see it get played in GT play, I think we'll get a good idea of like how powerful it is from a metagame standpoint. I think at the very least, it probably requires people to like learn how to play against it, because it's not like it's unstoppable. But it is, I think, so weird that you have to be aware of it, because it has like basically like perfect maneuverability, essentially, if you don't have like Omni Scramblers everywhere or just like 1 million screening units. But there are going to be some factions I think it struggles with. But let's talk about the strats. You don't need a Trigon. Regular Ravener Brick can do it since the marker itself can be closer. If you so here's it's hard to demonstrate this. Here's the thing, right? So let's say that you're in the back corner of your opponent's deployment zone, and they have screened out all of your 9-inch deep strikes. There is no way for you to 6-inch deep strike in that position unless you have a Trigon, right? If the only option you have is to chain tunnel markers to that position to then 6-inch deep strike, and that gets a little bit hokey. If you have a Trigon, you can place the Trigon 6 inches away from them, use it to build a tunnel marker, and then place other units 6 inches away. So you don't need to do any chains or anything like that. To crack screens. Yeah, exactly. So like if for example, like you have no access to a Trigon and they have like their corner totally screened out with 9 inchers, it's probably impenetrable. You probably can't get back there, because you need a unit to set up, unless you're like devoting all of your burrowers to like build a bunch of tunnels, which is, I don't know, tough, but it is what it is. Grenades into the tunnel, hell yeah. Yeah, I honestly think what should happen, if this ends up being too strong, we'll talk about the list in a moment. If it ends up being too strong, I think what they should do is just make it so that tunnels collapse once you use them. I think that's the easy solution. It's not like impossible, but then like it means that in order to like be able to redeploy your stuff, like you constantly need to be building new tunnels, and you need to be taking more burrowers, which are like kind of less efficient units in general. You would love to take like 2 or 3 burrowing units and then just have the rest of your army be gas. But if they force you to take a bunch of burrowers to be able to deploy a bunch of stuff out, I think that would probably help it a little bit. I also probably think that the redeployment, the end of movement phase strat is almost certainly too good. It should probably be restricted to non-monster, and almost certainly not work in engagement range for sure. Being able to pull things out of engagement is really dumb. Melta charges in the tunnels? Just shoot them. Just shoot a portable nuclear missile into the tunnels. When they nerf such Death Guards, okay, yeah. I mean, Death Guard's getting fucking hammered in like next month, almost certainly. There's no way they don't. They're like so crazy right now. All right, so let's talk about the list, chat. So, Drew Townsend running the Sneaky Snakes, playing a Hive Tyrant. I have to remember what all the enhancements are named. Sorry. I don't remember off the top of my head. All I remember is the Trigon Prime one, because that one's cool. Oops, that's not the right page. Sorry. Grab my thing back. So, a Hive Tyrant with Tremor Senses. Oh, good. My PDF's frozen. My computer struggles so hard with PDFs. I edit my data sheets so that I can update their wording when they get changed and stuff. And it's a process that takes like 20 minutes because like they take so long to load. I don't know why it's specifically PDFs that it has trouble with. So Tremor Senses allows you to redeploy into potentially into strategic reserve after you have set up. So it allows you to basically overload your strat reserves if you want to. Because the detachment's so good at redeploying, I haven't necessarily found that this is really usually super necessary. But if you're playing a bunch of stuff like Neurolictors, it can help you screen enemy infiltrators and then pull them back to safety. And it's only 15 points, so that's actually kind of neat. We have a Neuro Tyrant. That's pretty good because they often... You'll clear their screens, and then you'll have a big go turn on the subsequent turn. And then you usually want to shadow on that turn because it like super fucks up their... counterattack. So you basically like engage them with your whole army, and then if you battle shock half of their stuff, then like they come back into you and are like just flailing around essentially. We have a Trigon with Trigon Prime that's +1 weapon skill and +1 strength, plus he gains synapse. I really like this character. He's actually like super lethal. He gives you access to the the Trigons have 6-inch deep strike built in, so he gives you access to that without having to worry about building other tunnels for him. He can't charge after he does that, but it gives you some access to it. But the other thing is he just hits like a truck. If you're not worried about like toughness 12 stuff, and you're not worried about like super heavy armor, like 2+ save with AOC, because he's only AP 2, the Trigon Prime will clear like basically anything really efficiently. We have a standard Trigon with Vanguard Intellect that lets him deep strike on turn 1. That's really powerful to allow him to build tunnels so that you can hit people on the bottom of the first turn, or he can start building tunnels on the top of the first turn, although you can't really use those tunnels very well because nothing else comes in alongside him. We have a Gargoyle unit. The big thing there is that they can 6-inch deep strike away from an objective, shoot, and then move on to the objective to steal it, so that's kind of nice without having to charge. Biovores, double Haruspecs. These are kind of it makes a little sense because they are shoveling units, so they would be good in tunnels. But the big turtle boy is he's like the most ludicrously efficient profile for 125 points. He's T11 with 18 attacks. The problem was that they kept making him cheaper and cheaper because it was impossible to actually get him to do anything because he's like a big slow moron and can't get around walls and stuff. Turns out if you just like basically deploy him directly into combat, he's really good. So I think these are the secret sauce for this detachment. I think that competitive lists using this detachment are probably going to start with like a Trigon, a couple Ravagers and Molochs, and 2 to 3 Haruspexes, because the Haruspex is just like so like monstrously efficient if you could just deliver it. If it doesn't have to take any damage on the way in, and it just like doesn't have to really roll that high to charge, it'll just get in and like kill whatever it touches, and then your opponent has to commit back into 14 wounds to kill it. And if they don't, it just gets to do that again. They're like crazy good, and they're basically free. Double Neurolictor. Again, we're gonna like basically ram into these guys into them. Haruspex also can force battle shock checks when it kills people, which is cute. And then the Neurolictors can give you +1 to wound against other stuff, so that's helpful. A Norn Emissary, so we can dump that into this your singular purpose objective right off the bat without having to walk up the table, which is a big deal. Plus, it gives you shooting on the way in and then charges, which is good. Double Psychophage to bump AP. Downside of the Haruspexes is that they have 1 trillion attacks, but they're all AP 1 and 2. So if you bump the AP using Psychophages, they get like kind of crazy. And then we get a standard Trigon. This is triple Trigon, incredible. Plus a Zoanthrope unit. The Zoanthrope unit, there's a stratagem for ignore cover and sustained hits when you arrive from reserve. the Zoanthrope unit is going to get the most use out of that. Usually you'll need to play some amount of ranged attacks in this detachment, so you have ways to like skirmish with your opponent and clear screens if they're screening you really aggressively. And Zoanthropes are a pretty good answer to that. The weird part is that they're like so fat of a unit that they have to like basically just like jump into line of sight to shoot anything, and your opponent gets to shoot them back. But depending on the terrain format you're using, you might be able to like finagle angles and stuff. I've been using Barb Gaunts in this capacity, and they've actually been kind of neat. But yeah, that's like a pretty normal Subterranean Assault list. These lists are crazy, and we'll see. We'll see, chat. I've been very pleasantly surprised at how dominant it's been in my games, and it looks like we had a ton of undefeated Tyranid players this weekend in small events. We'll have to see if that continues once it starts to see play in GT level events, but I have a suspicion that it will be good if you're not prepared for it. No exocrines. Yeah, no exocrines whatsoever. No exocrines or Tyrannofexes. But interesting thing is like this, and maybe it speaks to the fact like how good this detachment is. The detachment's so strong that you get to you can kind of play whatever you want. You can use it to deliver guns, or you can use it to deliver melee. The melee version's just like more threat saturating, but you can just like pop. You can do like Star Shatter Arsenal stuff, or not Star Shatter Arsenal. Sorry, Hypercrypt Legion stuff, where you just like pop Rupture Cannon Tyrannofexes like off weird angles. You're like a Ravener unit pops up, builds a tunnel for them, and they'll just like jump into the tunnel and appear a trillion miles away, like peeking line of sight on your Gladiator or whatever, and then blow it up, and off an avenue you weren't expecting. And you can just play that way too. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can build the detachment, which is kind of interesting. I'm gonna be playing just after this. I was just looking at the time, and I am running a little late. Just after this stream, I'm gonna be over on Twitch, and I'm gonna be playing a game with this Subterranean Assault game. So please come hang out with me. Perennial shout out to Twitch. Let me grab my Twitch link real quick. I don't know why it's doing weird stuff, but that's okay. Here's my Twitch, folks. I'm going to be over there playing Subterraneans for a bit. All right. I think we have time for one more. Maybe two. Thank you for the follows over there. I appreciate that. All right, we have some undefeated Drukhari. We also have Blood Angels, which I think, obviously, I've talked quite a bit about, like a trillion Blood Angels lists. Tau and Chaos Knights also doing fairly well. So what do we want to take a peek at? Could probably do two more armies, I think. Tau, everybody wants to see new Tau. All right, let's talk about new Tau. So we're gonna move over to the Onslaught 2K. This was 19 players. Oh, Onslaught Gaming ran this one. Old Lewis down there in Florida, friend of the channel. Run by Rad Bolt. I hope that's his name. Jesus. Running an auxiliary Cadre. Hell yeah, dude. So Tau obviously got a rewrite to their spotter rules. They can now observe with a single unit and then benefit from the observation with their entire army. I actually played against this the other day, and one thing that my opponent pointed out, which I thought was kind of neat, is that it actually radically buffs their indirect fire, which is a little bit funny, because they now just like, as long as one forward operator can get line of sight to any of your units in the center, every single seeker missile can just target that unit and get observed for and hit on fours. And that's kind of neat. Excuse me, I got something in my throat. So we got an auxiliary Cadre, double enforcer battle suits. One has admired leader, which I believe is +1 OC to a auxiliary unit. Yes. In your command phase, you can select a Kroot or Vespid unit within 12. If you do, and it gets +1 leadership and +1 OC while it's not battle shocked. So this, for those who forget, this is the Grotsmith detachment, who everyone thought was going to be really broken, and then nobody played it. It gives you +1 AP when Tau models target Kroot, targets enemies within 9 inches and invisible to Kroot or Vespid units. You also gain an 18-inch lone operative on Kroot or Vespid units while you're wholly within 6 inches and visible to a Tau Empire unit. So the regular Tau can protect your Kroot, your auxiliaries, and the auxiliaries can buff your regular Tau. And then this detachment just has like 6 basically like perfectly insanely strong stratagems. That includes auto 6 advances, advance and declare a charge, or shoot, advance and declare a charge with Kroot and Vespid if you need to. +1 or 2 strength, depending on if you have auxiliary nearby for shooting attacks. Reroll wound rolls of 1 and +1 AP. So you can like hyper stack your shooting, your shooting stats if you have enough CP to fuel them and you have auxiliary stuff nearby. And speaking of which, we're going to be hyper stacking all of those buffs on looks like missile broadsides. No, heavy rail rifles. But these guys also come equipped with missile drones and twin smart missile systems, so they're also shooting a bunch of times with little attacks. And you can now split fire, right? So we can guide into a heavy target, fire the rail rifles, put another observer on a light target, and give them like +1 AP or something, and then fire a million, like I think it's 6 missile shots per broadside into them. Also potentially getting +1 AP, also getting the guidance effect, so +1 to hit and ignore cover if you have a marker light. So we have 2 sets of those, a Fire Knife Battlesuit team with missile pods. So another unit that real midline like autocannon profile, strength 7, AP 1-2 damage, but we can buff it super hard by either observing with a marker light for ignore cover, giving +1 AP from the auxiliary Cadre detachment ability, +2 strength, potentially an additional +1 AP. So these guys actually, if you have the stats to buff them, go kind of crazy. We have 2 ion cannon hammerhead gunships. The big benefit too is that like these individual vehicles don't need individual spotters as well. So taking like multiple ion head gunships is actually really, it's like super efficient because they can all just target a single thing. And the fact that their weapon is like high volume but kind of mid damage doesn't matter so much because you're just gonna wait a fire down whatever you're shooting at. Then 2 units of Kroot carnivores, 3 units of Krootox rampagers because we can advance and charge them, so they're good for disruption. Plus a Pathfinder team. 1 Skyray gunship, triple stealth battlesuit teams to spot, and some Vespid sting wings to add some additional auxiliary support. This is really cool. I really like that this detachment has so many benefits for like these mid-level guns that now that you actually have the spotting capacity to observe for a whole gun line full of these weapons with only 1 stealth battlesuit team, for example, you actually can do so efficiently, whereas previously you were buffing like 1 hammerhead gunship with 1 stealth battlesuit team, and you were maybe getting 3 damage in. But now if you're stacking that with multiple hammerheads and and battlesuit teams as well, like you can actually get a lot of work done. That's actually really cool. I like it, chat. All right. In the name of timing, I think we're gonna move. We'll do one more Tau list. Whatever. I like talking about Tau. So this one, we saw some Leaks of Votann duel. This is Castle of Games RTT number 4. Doug Beck. These are low scores. This might have been gone to time, chat. I don't know. That is really low. I don't know about that. Interesting. Oh, I understand. We found the culprit. It's a Kroot hunting bag. Opponent got stuck and they couldn't fight out. So it's 1 ethereal the Kroot Carnivore team, single broadside battlesuit, Iron Cannon Hammerhead, Railgun Hammerhead, Railgun Hammerhead, 18 Kroot Rampagers, 9 Krootox Riders, 3 Skyray Gunships, double stealth battlesuits. These lists are always fucking hilarious. So you just run a bunch of idiot Kroot in the middle of the table, and you just like say go, and you're like, hey, what's up, idiot? I can like loan up these guys, and they have invuln saves and shit, and they're hard to kill. So you have to chew through them, otherwise they're just going to engage you and like beat on you for a bit. If you don't chew through them, or even if you do, if you expose yourself to attack these big, huge idiot bricks of Krootox Rampagers, you suddenly get hit by 6 gunships. And now the benefit is that one stealth battlesuit team can spot for all 6 gunships. So we don't need any help. Inky is freaking out. Calm down. So we don't need any help to make these things more efficient, because one stealth battlesuit team will be like, aha, I see the opponent, the opponent's most valuable unit, and then it eats like 9 seeker missile shots and just dies immediately. I think so. I was a little bit interested to see if these lists would pop up, because I think this observer buff actually buffs lists of this ilk that run these like multiple independent gunship activations way like far more than other styles of army, because you're able to not only, first of all, you can split fire more effectively, so we can shoot burst cannons elsewhere, right? We can spot against infantry for burst cannons, and then have another one spot against a armored target, and then all the gunships can shoot the armored target, all the little guns can shoot the infantry squad. You get the benefits of guiding on both, but then also you're doing that with only 2 guiding units, which is wild. Hey, Ryan, the super chat works.
Ryan G donated $2 through super chat. 5 wounds on a 5++. So much meaty meat slabs.
I know, it's fucking wild, dude. Yeah, it's so beefy. And we've seen lists like these just running like hundreds of Kroot infantry, a bunch of Farstalkers to like jail the opponent. We've seen like mass Kroot hounds. There's a bunch of different varieties of Kroot hunting pack, and I think this list is actually way stronger with the new rules, because previously you had there was the potential that your opponent, like, you pushed out with all the Kroot, your opponent had a go turn, shot at the Kroot, and then you come back and like run out of spotters and can't activate efficiently into them, and then like you get diced out. Now you just spot with like the Ethereal, who has spotting now because of the update ages ago, and the two stealth battlesuit teams, and you just kill everything that you just spotted against, which is great. Just really good. It does feel like a meme list until you see it in action, and then you actually realize it's really good. Like you can scroll back. I have some games with Kroot Hunting Pack that Bird Fireblade played on stream on my channel, and just look at the list and like how dominant it is. I think the best one, as I streamed him like 3 times, I think at the Ides of March last year, so the 2024 Ides of March, I streamed his, I think it was his Kroot Hunting Pack, and I streamed it like 3 times, if I remember correctly, and that was fucking wild, dude. All right, probably one more, chat. Should we talk about? All right, I got 3 lists that I haven't talked about in my notes. I've got Blood Angels, or 4. We've got Blood Angels, World Eaters. World Eaters is kind of boring. I think it's all Berserker warbands. Drukhari, or the other one, Shadow Legion. That's 4. What do we want to talk about? And then I have to go set up my Twitch stream. Dark Angels was not one of the options. Probably never see the list IRL unless your friend is over Kroot. I wouldn't. I mean, like, literally multiple people have played it. Drukhari. Okay, everybody wants to see Drukhari. Okay, it's Drukhari time. Speaking of people that I've live streamed before, I think I know what happened here. Yeah, okay. Speaking of people that I've live streamed before, we're going to go to the Phantasm Gaming RTT. This was won by Ari Chang, who I've streamed a bunch of times on this channel because I used to stream a bunch of his events. I think I've streamed him at Standoff GT last year, and I streamed him at Everwinter this year. Oh shit! I don't. Oh, okay. I was like, what detachment is this? There's Harlequins. We figured it out. Woo! Oh.
Ryan G donated $2 through Super Chat. Oh no tears, please. It's a waste of suffering.
Ryan G and the absolute love of the Drukhari memes. Yeah. Take a look at this list, chat. I have such sights to show you. So this is Reaper's Wager, which just got a huge buff because it now grants passive reroll ones to hit, which also, it's important to note, Subterranean Assault, I didn't mention this, but Subterranean Assault also does that. And let me tell you, that's a big fucking deal. Reroll once to hit doesn't seem like the greatest ability in the world until it's army-wide, and then suddenly your variance is just like 7% nicer. And suddenly those rolls where you're like, all right, 2 ups to hit, I rolled 3 1s. Uh-oh. Those just don't happen anymore. It feels nice, man. And that's a huge buff to this detachment. So enormous buff. Plus it got points off of its transport units. So Venoms and Raiders all went down. So nice little quality of life change. But the big thing was you get reroll ones to hit army-wide, which is crazy strong. And then if you're losing the wager, you also get reroll ones to wound, which is the new benefit. So you could play this with literally no Harlequins whatsoever, and it actually still has a detachment ability, which is sweet. So we are playing Drazar, cool to see him, Lilith Hesperax, Urian Rakarth, and a Standard Archon. We do have a Cavalite Warrior squad, but we don't have any courts. So I don't know what the Archon is doing. He's just attaching to something and hanging out. We do have the Shadow Steer. We actually talked about this list, and I forget who is playing it now, and I feel bad. But we actually talked about a list very similar to this recently. The big benefit the Shadow Steer has is that if you put him in a troop, a Harlequin troop, you can rapid ingress them, and he has an 18-inch lone operative effect. So as long as you rapid ingress them outside 18 inches, your opponent just literally can't attack them. And then you have shorten the odds, which lets them advance and charge. So you can then close that distance like very, very easily, which is great. There's also, if you take, and sometimes you see this played, and I'm interested to see that we didn't take it this time, you can also take Webway Walker to give that unit deep strike, so you can deploy them anywhere 18 inches away, and then advance and charge, which gives you a lot more control over it. But I guess the arithmetic is that if you're coming off the table edge, you don't necessarily need it. Or if you're just like running up the table as well, it helps you stage a little bit more easily, which is cool. We have a Cavalite Warrior squad, a Witch squad, which is going to split inside of Venom for Lilith Hesperax to hop into. I think the other Venom probably embarks the Incubi, but I imagine we combat squad Cavalite Warriors and then just disembark them, embark the Incubi before it moves. Drazar, I imagine, is jumping into the Incubi unit, and then I guess there's just an Archon running around. I'm not entirely sure. We have 5 Mandrakes for utility, 3 units of 5 Scourges. No word on their weapon profile, but sometimes we see 1 Haywire unit and then 2 Darklance units to like smooth out the matchups a little bit more easily. Reroll once to hit baseline for these guys is really cool because they don't necessarily then eat all of your pain tokens, because this detachment can run out of pain tokens potentially because it doesn't start with as many as like a real space raid. So having reroll once to hit and the Scourge just like shooting at things for free because they'll just run back out of line of sight after they fire, makes it so that if you don't have an attack that you particularly need to hit on, you are just dealing more passive damage without having to spend additional pain tokens, which is great. And then we have a Kronos, Void Raven Bomber, and then the Venoms. Yeah. The Void Raven Bomber as well with baseline rerolls. I mean, it shoots so many times with the double dark sides that you probably are pain tokening it when it fires. But even so, if you're out of pain tokens, you can just let it reroll ones. And it's sweet. Looks good. No Talos, I know. We're just getting work done with infantry, I guess. But it's hard to fit the Talos in when you're paying like 250 points for a Harlequin troop, right? Yeah. This detachment feels like... I think it went from being probably the best way to play Drukhari, but like with some argument for some of the other detachments, to just, I think, being the best on Drukhari list. Which, I mean, yeah, seems great. Not much else to say about this one, chat. Congratulations to Ari for going undefeated at this event. All right, folks. It is 4 p.m. My Twitch stream is supposed to start any minute now. So, I would love to talk about Blood Angels. We might save that for tomorrow. I think that what we're going to do tomorrow is go through the other big events from the weekend. So we had some super majors that went down that did not use the new rules, but I think it will be an interesting time to talk about the like big weird innovative lists that came out of those, because it seems like there were some really interesting ones. So we'll go through some select lists from those, and we can also go through some additional results from these events, which is good. There's the Evangene Store cult down here we didn't talk about. So I think we'll do that. I think that's what's going to happen. Drukhari for 11th starter box, yay or nay? Ooh. Drukhari and Black Templars. Do we see a 3rd edition? I got my... You can see it on the screen there, chat. Right up there. I got my old 3rd edition starter box I found at a fucking flea market. I'm so excited about. We could get another one of those. I would love that. That'd be cool. That'd be cool as fuck. I'd be so in on that. Anyway, chat, that's gonna be it for me today. Thanks everyone for watching. I'm sorry, apologize for the abrupt end here, but I do need to hop off to meet my opponent. But please come hang out with me on Twitch. I will shoot you another link to my Twitch. I think he's fucking screaming over here. Please go give me a follow, and I'm gonna play some Subterranean Assault over there. Post haste. Cheers, everyone. Keep it classy, folks. I'll see you in a sec.